And next, the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Bentz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, witnesses, for being here. I'm going to start with or I guess it's Deputy Chief Heidecker. The HR 934 proposes to require the Secretary of Agriculture to carry out the activities to suppress wildfires. In meeting with various timber companies back in Oregon, they asked me if I would just do one thing when I got here, and that is to convince the Forest Service to put out the fire the moment they see it, as opposed to allowing it to burn. This legislation would do exactly that. Would you suggest that this legislation is not necessary right now?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As we stated in our testimony, the concerns that we would have is that we would lose tools that are critical for us fighting fires. And if you look at our data, it's 96 or 98% of all of our fires are caught within the first 24 hours. So you have a very small percentage that are not, and I think it's 1% that we currently either monitor or manage for resource benefit.
Let me just suggest that when I was out on the side of the various mountains, we drove around spending a couple of days looking at where the fires had not been put out as soon as they could have been. I will share with you that the damage was horrific, and it wasn't just the forest public land that was damaged. So I think the bill is absolutely necessary. Let's go to another question. I note that there in your budget for this year, 2023, there's $321 million allocated to management of hazardous fuels, and I'm very happy for the effort to clean up, if you will, the forests that under your 10-year plan you're working on. But I just want to know who's doing the work. Who's out there actually reducing fuel loads in the forest?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's going to be a mix. I mean, we're approaching this as all lands, all hands approach, and as you know, we work with the states, as I mentioned before, Good Neighbor Authority. We hopefully work with counties and tribes.
Let's stop there.
Okay.
When I've gone out and looked and see who's doing the work, I see contract laborers doing the work. Most speak Spanish, and it looked to me like they were doing great work, working pretty hard, but they were working under a labor contractor generally, or someone else of like nature. And I'm happy they're out there doing the work. Mm-hmm. I just want to know, is that your observation? Is that who's actually out there doing the work?
I think there are, in cases that's an observation. Yes, it's not an observation I've made. Again, I came from Arkansas, worked on the Ouachita National Forest. That was primarily Forest Service employees out there, both full-time firefighters as well as what we call the militia, reserve firefighters, working hand in hand with the state and counties to do that work.
Well, that would not be the case on the West Coast. It's just, and we have 90 million acres of forest. Now, it's not all federal, but the work that's getting done in significant part is being done by folks that are not what I'll call found anxious to do that kind of work. There's the problem. I've fought fire before very badly, very poorly, and I realized really quickly it was hard, dangerous, dirty work. I've also gone out and cleaned up forests, believe it or not, when I was in high school, and it is hard, boring, hot, and most people don't want to do it. That's why I became a lawyer, so I wouldn't have to do it. And I'm just saying that it appears to me that the actual work that's being done to clean up the forest right now is primarily being done by immigrants. And I just wanted you to comment on that one more time, but if you don't know, that's fine for you to say.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, and I could talk to you about our wildland firefighter hiring numbers and those sorts of things. But I would just offer that it is a mix of contracts, it's partners through agreements, and our own employees.
The last thing I'll mention, and sorry to have focused on you this entire time, but there's a huge part of Oregon is controlled by the Forest Service. There was a prescribed burn done not too far from where one of my brothers has a ranch and has a grazing permit. And it was badly managed, and there was an absolutely clear lack of respect by the Forest Service for the private land owners. Can you comment on that? Is there someone overseeing these folks' activities? Because there seemed to be an arrogance level and lack of respect that does not bode well for prescribed fires.
I'm surprised to hear that, and certainly there is a level of oversight. We have, district ranger as a local line officer. You have your burn bosses that are qualified through our rigorous process, as well as forest supervisor and on up from there. So if that's the case, we've as Escapes in New Mexico drove us to pause our prescribed fire activities, do a comprehensive review of that program, and have made changes as a result of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Bentz.